Hello, everyone. I am officially live yet again. I hope that you are doing well today. If you are new here, I'm Alex, and this is my channel, Frank Fiction, where I do reading and productivity sprints most every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was not here last week because Keaton and I had a date, but I am back again this week as I normally am. If you are watching live, welcome. And if you are watching the recording after the fact, welcome to you as well. You may end up noticing today that the stream is going to look a little bit different than it normally does because I normally am streaming on the program called StreamYard. This time I am using Restream. So let me know if something about the quality of this experience ends up being worse or better. I would love for it to be better. But just let me know in general that compared to what it normally looks like on StreamYard. And if you are in the US, today is the 4th of July, which means fireworks, which I used to enjoy very much when I was younger, and I do not enjoy anymore because I have a dog who absolutely hates fireworks. So, in wishing everybody a happy 4th, I am also very sad to tell you that my stream, my sprints and everything that I do tonight are going to be cut short because I'm going to need to spend time with my dog to just help him be okay. And we have a ton of fireworks where I live, so I am fully anticipating them to start even in broad daylight. People have already been doing that today, which is not fun. It's just something that we have to deal with, but I wanted to be here for you all to do at least, some sprinting. It's not going to be just like a couple and done. I'm probably going to get 3 or 4 in there before I end up cutting it short, and we normally end up doing about 5. So it's still going to be a pretty decent stream, just not as long as it normally is. And for those of you who are in Canada, you also celebrated Canada Day recently, so happy belated Canada Day to you. In terms of what I am reading today, I have dove back finally into The Count of Monte Cristo, so I have been making more progress in that. And then I am also reading Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett, which is the 10th Discworld novel. And I'm really enjoying it. This book is funny. And if it tells you anything, The Count of Monte Cristo made me cry last night. So this very much is not. I would say it's a pretty good balance emotionally for books that I'm reading because I can go with, whatever it is that I'm feeling in that moment. So I'll be bouncing back between the two tonight, and you should be letting me know what it is that you are reading or working on tonight because I always want to know that. And as always, this is a chill time. Sit down, grab a drink, grab a snack, curl up under a blanket. If it's cold where you are, it very much is not where I am. Pretty much everywhere across the US is really hot right now. And today has been no exception. I was actually out with some friends earlier today. I ended up visiting one of my friends' houses, and we all like had our feet in a little kiddie pool, and we're just taking in the heat and the sun, and it wipes you out. I was with them for, no, it was probably about 3 hours when I got home, and I just felt absolutely exhausted. So, yeah, I'm going to be remaining as cool tonight, hopefully, as possible. And right now, I'm just drinking water because I already got my my drinks in earlier today. I did something I don't ever do. I had some day drinks. I had some blackberry whiskey lemonades earlier today, and I just do not need any more sugar. So for the rest of the day, it's just going to be water. And yeah, so I'm going to, on that note, go over to the comments and see how everyone is doing. And Robert was the first in. Hey, Robert. Robert says, Happy 4th of July to all in the USA. Yes, to you too, as well. And then, let's see, you said, grab a drink, grab a snack. Absolutely. And Swank says, Howdy, everybody. Happy 4th of July. Happy Alice in Wonderland Day. Happy Barbecue Short Ribs Day. And Happy Hillbilly Day. Some of those things go together. I love it. And Robert says, Swank, what is this crown icon thing? And how are we not number one? Are you guys seeing something on your end? Because I do not see that on mine. So that is interesting. And it is also not something I give to people, so I don't know what you're talking about. And a cat says, "Hey, Alex and friends in the chat, and hello to you, Cat." And Tolkana's here. Hi, Tolkana. And Heidi's here. Hi, Heidi. Heidi says, "Hello. I want to know if Alex has read Piranesi." I have. I think so. I'm going to read it soon. I actually ended up really enjoying Piranesi, Heidi. It's definitely a strange book. It's one of those that it's going to take a little bit to figure out exactly what's going on. And that to me was the fun of it. So hopefully you will end up enjoying it as well, as long as you like things that are kind of different. And Denise is here. Hi, Denise. And Denise says, "Hello, everyone. Happy 4th of July to you as well. I'm reading The Doll Maker for Big Book Summer on page 11. Good right from the beginning. Awesome. I don't know if I would be allowed to count The Count of Monte Cristo in Big Book Summer because I have been reading it now for a little bit, but I guess it technically I started reading it during the summer or somewhere thereabouts. So, yay, I'm participating in Big Book Summer and didn't even mean to. And Heidi said, "Yes, glad to have Friday Night Lights with fireworks. Woohoo!" And Robert says, "Ooh, I see the icon thing changed." Okay, you guys will have to let me know what you're seeing on your end, and if something looks weird, because I can always go back to the other streaming service. This is just I wanted to try something new. Kat says, "How was kickboxing class, and did Keaton join you, or were you solo?" I Keaton did not come with me because he got home too late from work to be able to go with me. I had a group of friends that had been going for years that invited me to go with them, and I had a blast. I'm very sore. I did lots of push-ups and sit-ups, and obviously a lot of punching and kicking, but I had a great time. And Kat says, "Your stream looks the same, except it says restream." Okay, yeah, so up in the little corner icon thing. I noticed that there is a little bit more of a delay when I'm putting up comments. Like it takes a little bit more, like an extra second for them to come up. I wonder if there's a way to adjust that. Perhaps. I'm not sure. And Tolkana says, "Happy Friday." Aw, poor doggo. Yeah, Barker has never liked fireworks. The thing about him is, like, some dogs pace and they pant and they freak out. That is not Barker. Barker is one of those dogs that he wants to go, he wants to lay down, be wrapped up like a burrito, and he wants to lay there unmoving until it's over. So I just want to be there to provide him cuddles if that is what he needs. And Heidi says, "I have 5 books going on, like it's way too much, not sure how it happened." I think how it happened, Heidi, is you were in the middle of reading books and then you thought something else sounded good and you're like, "I'm gonna read that too." Because that's what's happened to me in the past. And Kat says, "There have been fireworks here too. Bailey is scared." I'm sorry. I always hate it for pet owners. I mean, cats too. Cats a lot of times don't enjoy fireworks. I mean, any other animal. I don't imagine like rabbits or birds like it either. Keaton told me that because he used to have chickens, that fireworks can be very traumatizing for birds. And actually, if they're too close by, it can shatter their eardrums, which I did not know. And Tokana says, "Switching between reading Magical Midlife Madness and listening to The Other Bennett Sister this evening. Fun." And Tessa's here. Hi, Tessa. Tessa says, "Hello. I am now on hospice care." No, I'm so sorry to hear that. You said, "No, I am not dying in 2 weeks, but since I have a terminal illness, I am qualified for the extra care. Still getting things set up. Very confusing." I hate to hear that from you, Tessa. I mean, you deserve so much better than to be suffering in the way that you are. And I hope that they'll be able to get everything squared away for you so that you can be in as much comfort as possible. And Faye says, "Thank you for Canada Day shout out." You're welcome. I have a coworker of mine who is in Canada, so we know when all of like the holidays are going on for her. So it's nice that I get like that little extra knowledge that I normally wouldn't. And Anne is here. Hi, Anne. Anne says, "Good afternoon. I understand about the dog being terrified. I have 3 cats who are absolutely terrified. I'm so sorry. It started last night here. We are sequestered in the basement." Yeah, ours started last night too. I should technically say they started before that, but they were very sporadic. Like, we have people who, they buy fireworks sometimes months in advance and they just get excited the week of the 4th. And of course, the 4th ended up falling, excuse me, on a Friday this week. So, some people have been sending off like onesie twosies throughout the week. And we haven't been able to take Barker out for a WALK. I shouldn't say it in case he hears me. Um, one, because it's been hot, so I've been trying to take him out when it's a little bit cooler in the day. Sometimes we wait until the evenings to be able to take him out just so he can get some exercise. But the problem is if you wait until it's cooler out, that's going to be the time that everybody's setting them off. So we just recognize that tonight he's not going to be able to get one, which is why I took him out this morning. I feel bad for him, but needs must. Tagana says, "Ooh, blackberry whiskey lemonade sounds tasty." Yes, they were amazing. I was the one who supplied the booze because my friend who was hosting supplied the pizza. And I was like, well, I'll make everybody drinks. And so it was just simply lemonade. I have a blackberry syrup that I got that's absolutely fantastic. And then blackberry bird dog whiskey. And then my friend Amanda actually had blackberries in her fridge that she forgot that she bought. So we put those in there and you can, eat them after everything was all melted and stuff, which tasted really good. And every single person that I made one for loved it. So I was potentially designated the future drink making person. I'm not a bartender, I'm not a mixologist, but I can whip up something. It's my summer drink of choice as well. And Tessa says, I am starting to write again slowly. I'm happy to hear that because I know you had to take a long break. And Faye says, Tessa hugs. And Robert says, Keaton, is anything there open? I'm going with bratwurst. Because I had pizza earlier in the day, I have not eaten really anything else. However, when I got home, Keaton had gotten Panda Express and he invited me to come sit on the couch with him. And I wasn't going to eat any of it because it was his food that he went to go get. And he kept offering it to me. And at one point, he hands it to me and he's like, here you go. So I thought he was telling me that I could eat what I wanted. And I ate like 3 of his shrimps and 1 piece of beef. And he apparently was sitting there staring at me, waiting for me to quit eating it so that he could go back and finish his meal. And I felt absolutely terrible. So my dinner consisted of stealing food from Keaton. There you go. And Tessa says, thanks, Faye. And Denise says, I keep seeing The Crown everywhere. I was also wondering what it is. That would be really weird if like Restream provided something like in terms of an icon that StreamYard does not, especially because I can't see it. I don't know what would cause something to pop up and look differently for different people. And Swank says, are the crowns originally wrenches? No, because I haven't given anybody a wrench. I was actually thinking about that when Kat and I had our last stream, when we had that weird person come on, and I was like, I haven't designated anybody. So I don't know. And Angel says, hello, everybody. And hello to you, Angel. Reading Long Live Evil. Fun. And Anne says, I see the crowns as well. Kat says the crown thingy started on July 1st. Oh, so it is a YouTube thing. It's just coincidence that we're seeing it on this stream because this one is happening after July. Okay. I had no idea. You can't see it on the host end because apparently YouTube gave crowns in my chat on Wednesday, but no one mentioned it. I heard it on Lee's sprints. Kat, can you tell me what makes somebody get a crown? I wonder what that is. And Elena's here. Hi, Elena. And Elena says, good afternoon. Alex just finished the spell shop. Nice. And Faye says, I'm feeling delicate today. I'm sorry. So I'm ready to do nothing but read all evening. Our 18-year-old cat died last week. No, Faye, I'm so sorry. Our 12-year-old dog might not last the weekend. And we're moving in 3 weeks. Tough month. That is no kidding. That's a tough month. Yeah, I really hope that tonight you can take it easy. My condolences to you. The loss of a pet, and especially if it ends up being multiple pets, is extremely hard anytime, but especially in back-to-back cases like that. And then adding a move on top of that, I'd be ready to just fall over and sleep for 3 weeks. So I'm really sorry, and I hope that you take care of yourself. Denise says, yes, count it. Big Book Summer goes from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Oh, nice. I have no idea if I will be able to finish the Count of Monte Cristo by Labor Day, but I definitely want to try because I have other things that I want to read and I don't want to be on the count for the rest of the year. As much as I'm enjoying it, right? I don't want to take forever to get through it. And Elena said, "What are you reading, Alex?" So, Count of Monte Cristo's one, and then Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett. And I'm on page 164 of that. And then Tessa said, "I was wondering why I have a crown now." So, I'm curious which ones of you have them and which one of you don't. And Elena says, "Let me know." And Faye says, "If you click on the crowns, it's a top fans list, like we're all supposed to compete to love Alex the most." You know what? That sounds like other services that I've seen before where like you get I think even on Facebook it has it where like if you engage with somebody's content enough, you like earn badges and it's an automatic thing that happens where it's like, oh, well, you can show that you got this badge. And I know on Twitch that is also something that happens because a friend of mine, Brian, has streams that he does every week for games that he plays. And if I go on, because I was one of the people originally who subscribed to him, I have special badges and stuff next to my name because I'm one of the original people who started from the very beginning. So, yeah, it sounds like YouTube's trying to I don't really know the purpose. Bragging rights, maybe? Yeah, bragging rights. And Robert says, "I have 75 XP, whatever that is. I should have 1,850,000 XP if I'm being honest." I would have to agree with you on that, Robert. And Tolkana says, "Me too, Barker," wraps in blanket. He is a little sausage, so it's only appropriate. And Elena says, "I'm reading the Pardon by Jeffrey Toobin." Very nice. And Hillary's here. Hi, Hillary. And Hillary says, "Hi, I'm new here. I'm reading Malice by John Gwynne." Very nice. Well, welcome to you and a welcome from Robert as well. And Denise says, "Tessa, I'm so sorry to hear that." Yes. And Kat says, "Hello, Hillary. What do you enjoy reading?" And Tessa says, "Thank you, Denise." And Stina's here. Hi, Stina. Stina says, "Hello, Alex and chat." And you said, "Tessa, hugs." And Kat says, "YouTube provides the crowns." Bragging rights. Tessa says, "Thanks, Stina." Talcana says, "I don't see crowns, maybe because I'm on my phone. Maybe I need to update the app." That's curious. I have no idea because I haven't seen them myself. I've got no clue. And Stina says, "Yeah, on the first, I was in a live book club and got the #1 crown." Look at you go. Nice. And Hillary says, "My top favorite genres are fantasy and sci-fi." Awesome. Well, you are in good company because those are two of the genres I read the most on my channel. And Kat says, "The crown is apparently for participation in the chat." I mean, the majority of people that are here have been in chats for ages. So that's I don't know. Stina says it's for commenting as far as I can tell. Huh. And Stina says hugs to Faye. And Kat says big hugs to Faye. And Faye said thank you. And Tessa says clicking on the crown brings up a list of where you are in the rating. Okay, yep. And Denise says, "I don't have a crown." Now I do. All right. So if everybody starts commenting from here on out, you're eventually going to get a crown. And Stina says, "I think everyone gets a crown that shows their XP. Then the top 3 get a numbered badge." Okay. Heidi says, "I have no crown. Maybe it is my iPhone 8. It could be. It might be your iPhone settings, or it might not display the same on iPhone. Kat says, "Denise, you can only see the crown on certain devices." Okay, I'm learning so much. And Kat says, "I couldn't see the crowns on my iPad while watching Lee's stream, but I'm watching Alex's sprints on my laptop." Got you. Okay. And Stina says, I'm reading Dashiell Hammett's first Continental Op story, Arson Plus. Cool. I do not know anything about those. And Kat says, I think it's how often peeps comment. Yeah, that makes sense. And Anne says, why does everything have to be a competition? I really don't know, but as long as you know that I didn't do it, that's if they did it automatically and we couldn't vote for that, I do think that that kind of sucks. I wouldn't have opted for it. And Kat says, exactly, Anne. Oh, and Stina says, it looks like they want me to buy a super chat. Please no, you never have to do that ever on my channel. Just don't worry about it. And Telkana says, I could walk upstairs to see if my computer shows the crowns, but that seems like a lot of work. Don't worry about it. you just comment the way that you normally comment, and that goes for everybody. Like, please, like, don't force yourself. Just do what you would normally do. We're just here to talk and have fun. It's not a competition. And Kat says, I literally just found out about the crown thing 2 hours ago. And Robert says, I'm going to spam the sheet out of this stream. Oh, Robert. I know it's a joke, so I'll laugh about that. There are other people who would do that, though. Heidi says, Hillary, I love fantasy and sci fi. I recommend Mockingbird by Walter Tevis and Electric Forest by Tanith Lee. Both so good, both written around 1980. Awesome. I don't believe that those are two that you've mentioned to me yet, Heidi, so that's good to know. And Stina says, but at least now we know why. Yeah, that's fair. Cat's laughing at Robert. Spam the sheet out of it. All right, I'll give you all your question for our first sprint here, which is going to be, are you a fan of bookish accessories, or do you think it's become too commercialized? So I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if you all have seen the videos that have been coming up recently about, like, let me de-influence you on, and there's a whole channel, and she's a super sweet young woman, but she de-influences on bookish accessories that a lot of booktubers try to promote. So, like, for example, if they have affiliate links, and they're like, oh, I bought this thing to curate the perfect reading experience, right? So you can kind of talk about, are there accessories that you really like and you think are useful? Are the ones that you've seen that you think, I don't know why anybody would need that? That seems like a waste of money and of resources. I'm just curious to hear what you have to say. And I will be putting up 45 minutes for our first sprint. And Telkana, oh, sorry, the comments are jumping too quick for me. Anne says, I am still trying to finish the Grapes of Wrath. How long have you been working on that, Anne? And Telkana says, gotta run to pick up groceries during the sprint. Blarg. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a bummer. Yeah, and I have never read the Grapes of Wrath, so I have no idea how that reads or how that is, or if it's any good. So I hope it's at least good for you. And I will go ahead and get the 45 minutes up on the clock. I did figure out the layout of this like minutes before the stream started, so I was happy to at least get that running properly. So hopefully I don't mess it up too bad. And I will see you all in a little bit. I'm probably going to start on moving pictures. My goal is to get halfway through the book tonight, so which I don't think it's going to be that hard for me to do that, but I want to be able to focus a little bit more on the Count of Monte Cristo because I've been reading that one so much longer and it's going to take so much longer for me to get through it. So yeah, starting with moving pictures, and I will see you all in a little bit. Happy reading. Bye. All right, everybody, come on back. Let me know how you did. You might have seen that I was eating there. I made some kebabs on the grill yesterday, and for the most part, they actually turned out really, really good. A little bit of advice from me to you if you're ever looking for a type of seasoning to put on veggies before you grill them. I highly recommend that you marinate your vegetables in sun-dried tomato vinaigrette. That was a trick that my dad taught me, and it has never failed ever, not once. It's so good. It works great on squash, zucchini, bell peppers, onions, all good stuff. Highly recommend it. You need to give it at least a couple hours to marinate. The longer, the better. Pardon me, excuse me. All right. Before we left, I asked you all the question, are you a fan of bookish accessories or do you think it's become too commercialized? Really curious to hear about this one. Let's see. And Anne said, I think she was talking about the Grapes of Wrath, says 4 days, but 1.5 days don't count because I had appointments. Well, if you've only been reading it for 2.5 days, for the Grapes of Wrath, that's not very long at all. And Stina says, yes, and yes. If I had the money, I would buy tons of bookish merch. But yeah, it's more than a little ridiculous. That's fair. Heidi says, if I remember, both Mice and Men and Grapes of Wrath are very good. Of Mice and Men, I have read, and I think it's solid. I have not read Grapes of Wrath. I do recommend Of Mice and Men. When I say it's solid, that makes it sound like I just thought it was good. It was a book I would recommend to read in terms of classics go. And Faye says both can be true, way too commercialized, but some of it's fun. I collect bookmarks, and one of my brothers usually gets me something bookish for Christmas. I completely agree. Like, I have bookish shirts, I have bookmarks that I love, especially anything that's custom always means a lot. Like, I have a stamp for my books that has my name on it that my mom got me. I have these acrylic blocks that she got off of Redbubble that are from like specific books that I enjoy. So, for example, I think it's in my bookish accessory or not. It was like I did a bookish gift video a little while back, but it's of John Coffey's hands holding Mr. Jingles from The Green Mile, and that was something that I thought was cool and very unique. Like if you have those kits where you can build um, bookends, and have like the bookends that light up. I think things like that are neat. The problem really that I have with accessories isn't so much you put them around your house as decorations. It's the ones that you're supposed to use where the purpose of them doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to think, like I've seen on Etsy before, they have these, and a lot of people make them out of acrylic, some people make them out of wood. They have these little holders where you slide your thumb through them so that you can hold your book open with one hand. And I already have the ability to hold my book open with one hand, so I don't need a tool, like to buy a special tool to be able to do that, right? I don't have to have like a special reading blanket to curate my reading experience. I don't have to have a special coffee mug, for example, right? And I'm not saying that it's bad if people have those things. I'm just saying that if you go on your channel and you're trying to promote them and you have affiliate links because you are at the end of the day you're trying to sell them to people because you're going to get a commission back on those, you have to ask the question, are those things that are really necessary for people, are they really going to benefit people in any substantial way? And I think in most cases, in a lot of cases at least, that's not the case, which is why I don't have any affiliate links on my channel. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. The most that I do is give reviews of things, right? Or like on my Christmas video, for example, when I was providing examples, I think I had links to everything so you could go and find them if you wanted, but none of those were associated with me. If like you were to buy something, I would not get a kickback from it at all. So I really think it kind of depends on the way that people are promoting things. Is it because they think something's fun or is it because people want to make money? And the fireworks have already started. The sun is still fully out. You can't even see them. What's the point? Sorry. Very frustrated. And Kat says, yeah, I'm a fan of bookish accessories, even though I don't have a bunch of it. That's fair. Well, because I think there's also like, there's a normal amount of bookish accessories, and then there's like, you buy everything that somebody suggests to you kind of consumption, right? And that could be with regardless of like hobby, could be anything. Let's see. Tessa says, I don't think I'm interested in bookish things, although I used to collect bookmarks. I used to have a much larger collection of bookmarks than I do now. Last year, I actually gave away books at Christmas. We had candy as well, but books were the main thing that I handed out. And I had some bookmarks that I obviously had been very well taken care of. I wasn't like giving out trash to people, but I had bookmarks that I had had for a while and I didn't want them anymore. And I let the kids take them home if they wanted them. And a lot of the bookmarks got taken. So, I'm not as attached to a lot of them as I used to be, but I definitely still have ones that I love a lot. And Stina says, bookmarks are great souvenirs. That's so true. Small, easy to pack, not going to get you stopped by customs. I love it when friends give me bookmarks from their travels. I think that's great. That's lovely. Absolutely. Anne says, The Grapes of Wrath won the Pulitzer in 1940. I didn't realize that men wore polo shirts then. Only, oh, only me would notice that, right? That's funny that you noticed the polo shirts. I like that. And Anne says, I have bookish t-shirts and bookstore t-shirts. I also have, yes, I do have some specific bookstore merch, which I think is fun. I obviously got a sweatshirt from Powell City of Books when I ended up going there. I was bummed because there was one specific one that I wanted that they didn't have stock of, so I ended up having to go with my second choice. But I mean, it's still like a very comfortable sweatshirt, and I like it. And then I have a friend who ended up traveling to Alaska, and he brought me back a shirt from a bookstore, which I thought was really cool. And then there was a local one. From a state that my friend lives in, that when I went to go visit him, we went to the store and I like the shop so much. I just thought it had a cool vibe that I bought a shirt from them. That one is a little funny that I did that because I guess you could say the same for all of them, but it's like, it wasn't a store I had returned to. Like I haven't been back there since, but I really liked the shirt and I thought it was great to support a local bookstore that way. I would like to collect more local merch, if that makes sense, instead of just kind of like generic things. Because I've had generic shirts as well. And I think that when it's representing like a specific store that you really like, I think that that can be more meaningful. It just depends. And Swang says, I like them. There is this beautiful stacked books coffee mug at Walmart. I really want it, but I don't need it. They're at least nice to look at. That is so true. I used to have a much larger collection of like novelty mugs than I do now. But one of the things that I found since you brought up mugs is certain mugs, when they're made to be decorative. They're not made like with them thinking about people drinking out of them, and they're just very impractical. Like I had this one that I absolutely loved, but it got to the point where like cleaning it wasn't easy. Like the style of it, it made it funny to drink out of. It was a pumpkin cat, and the pumpkin had the full ridges on it, and that was the lip of the cup. And then on the inside of it, there was a cat. And so, like when you put the liquid in it, the cat would disappear. Then, as you would drink the liquid, the cat would pop back out. Um, but liquid would actually get underneath the cat as well. So it felt to me like I can never get it fully clean, and it just made me feel gross. So I ended up getting rid of it, even though I loved it. I thought it was a great decoration, but it just wasn't practical for me to use. And Faye says, Stina, same, but people always seem offended when I ask for them. What can I get you from Japan? A bookmark, please. Bookmark? I mean, honestly, if somebody said that to me, well, one, I would get it probably because we're both bookish people, but two, that's such a simple request. Like people could ask for way more complicated or expensive things. And if all somebody wanted was a bookmark, I'd be like, done. And Stina says, Faye, huh, I don't even have to ask. I guess they just know. That's sweet. I love that. And Stina says, Swag sounds perfect for holding bookmarks. Oh, that's a good idea. A mug that is book themed to hold your bookmarks. Cute. And Stina says, my husband was complaining that I had too many mugs to fit in the cabinet, so I have been filling them or filling them with bookmarks and pens and stashing them throughout the house. That's cute, actually. A good use for a mug. And Kat says, I love bookmarks and have received some amazing ones over the years. I sent you a bookmark, which was fun. And I'm really glad that you ended up liking it. Jamie says, hello. Hello to you too, Jamie. Jamie says, I like bookish accessories. I may never be rich enough to buy them, but the more there are, the more likely it will be that I can buy them used at thrift stores for cheaper. Absolutely. Makes perfect sense to me. And Robert says, Alex, I still like that video you did with the book-related gifts. Thank you. That video did not do well at all. For whatever reason, YouTube absolutely hated it and would not promote it. It is what it is. Maybe because I didn't have any affiliate links. You said the only accessory I buy now is bookmarks at Comic Cons and on various online sites. Very fair. And again, they don't take up very much space. And Faye says, I read 26 pages of Flashlight by Susan Choi. Very nice. And Robert says, I'm rereading The Stand, by the way. Ho ho! Keaton bought a copy of that. I don't think the uncut. There we go. Thank you. So saying thank you to myself. The uncut version of The Stand is the one that I convinced him to get because that's the one that I read. And I think that it was really meaningful for him to add like the extra. Yeah, you said 400 pages. I didn't know if it was 300 or 400 pages. Totally worth it. By the way, if anybody ends up deciding that they want to read The Stand by Stephen King, you should definitely get the one that's longer, even though it's longer. And yes, it's 1,150 pages. It is totally worth it. So eventually Keaton's going to read it. So the 1990 edition with the extra 400 pages. Yes. JB says, I got to page 50 in my arc of The Burning Heart of the World by Nancy Krikorian. Nice. About an Armenian woman who escaped violence as a kid dealing with flashbacks after the 9/11 attacks. Oh my. I hope you are enjoying it. Tokana says, love bookish accessories, just fun with the hobby. Absolutely. And Tina says, good evening, and good evening to you, Tina. And Faye says, I bought one of those hold the book openers during university when I was trying to write essays on more than one novel and was sick of opening and closing the books a million times. That is understandable if you're trying to like actually just hold the pages open. Yeah, I understand. And Jamie says, hello, Alex in chat. And hello to you too, Jamie. Happy 4th of July to you. Hopefully you didn't have to work today. I did not. Woohoo. Heidi says, oh, I buy a lot of booktuber merch to support my favorite channels, mostly t-shirts. Alex, if you have a Frank Fiction tee, I would buy it. Oh, or if I make one, you would buy it. I have literally never thought of that. I have never thought about making merch. I don't know what that says about me. That would be interesting. I have thought before for Kat and I's book club. Kat, if you're watching this, if there was ever a time that we decide that we want to continue the book club for years and people really enjoy it for a long time, it might be really fun to get like our little logo printed on a shirt and sell that. I would like that. I would totally wear one. I'd rep my own merch. And Jamie said, I definitely like bookish merch more than I like sports merch and most pop culture merch. That is also very fair. And it's relatable. And said, I haven't heard any fireworks yet. I'm happy for you. I hope you don't for a while. I just literally, as you said that, there was another one that just went off. Togana says, I wondered if one of those little thumb book holder things would help me holding a physical book easier with arthritis. Potentially. I don't know. Maybe. And that's the thing. It's like, if I think that an accessory would be silly for me, there are gonna be other people who probably found it useful. So, that's why it's fun that we have so much different merch out there and so many different accessories that people offer, is because it's going to be worthwhile for someone, but, not so much for others. Just depends. And you said, "A cute Kindle case just makes me happy." That's fair too. Also, not a ridiculous purchase and not really that expensive. One of the things I have noticed that people are doing, and I appreciate this because I think it's more, well, one, it's more economical, but it's also more environmentally friendly. And I don't know if you've done this at all, Telcana, but people have been taking clear Kindle cases, and what they do is they have stickers, but they don't actually like take the sticky part off of the sticker. They put it inside the case so that the Kindle keeps it pressed inside. Or sometimes they do it with wrapping paper, like seasonal wrapping paper. And then whenever they feel like switching it out, they just take the case off, remove the stickers, and put whatever new ones in there that they want. And then they only have the one case, so they're not buying multiple cases. And I thought that that was a pretty neat idea. And Stina says, "I have an old Firehouse t-shirt and I have a really nice tattered cover tote bag." That's cool. And Denise says, "No reading this time. Had to pick up a prescription and drop my granddaughter off. Took a lot longer than I thought." Oh, yeah. Picked up a s'mores McFlurry for later. Oh, that sounds good. I love an M&M McFlurry. Big fan. And hope you had a good time with your granddaughter too, Denise. And Zach says, "Hi. Hi, Zach. I'm reading The Future is Female, which is an anthology of classic sci fi written by women. I'm only 2 stories in, but it's fantastic." I'm happy to hear that. I have heard of The Future is Female. I think I can even see the cover of that. I think I know what the cover looks like. Heidi says, "I think there is a company called Out of Print." There is one that has teas with classic book cover sci-fi books too. Yes, they do have that. And Anne says, "Tokana, I have wondered if it would help with my arthritis. Question, do you find hard cover books more difficult?" I don't have arthritis, but I do have weak wrists, and I can say for certain that hardback books are harder for me to read ergonomically than a paperback book. And Stina says, "I have a Hedwig mug. It took only 1 cup of coffee before it went into bookmark holding service. So it was not very good to read or drink out of, I take it." And Robert says, "Decorative mugs. Someone gave me a Mandalorian mug and I didn't realize it had foil on the writing. I found out when I put it in the microwave." Oh no. Oh, I'm glad it didn't. I hope, well, I shouldn't say I'm glad it didn't ruin your microwave. I don't know if it ruined your microwave. I hope that it didn't. I'm sure it scared the shit out of you though. I remember I remember the first time I ever put a fork in the microwave as a child, and I will never forget that trauma. It was horrible. And Jamie said, "Most book merch shirts are printed on crew necks, and I hate the fit of most of those shirts. So I admire the designs, but I don't need to own them. I need shirts that don't touch the front of my neck." That also makes sense and is very valid. There is one company, I had mentioned them earlier, and the I will say quality varies, one, depending on the artist, and two, depending on what it is that you buy. Redbubble is an interesting company because a lot of artists go and they make their own designs for things, and you can get them printed on whatever kind of merch you want. So, for example, you might have a design that you like, and you're like, "Oh, I'd like that on a dress, a shirt, a sweatshirt, an iPad cover, a phone case." I don't know if they do pop sockets or anything like that, but they like notebooks. I think some of them do scarves. I mean, like just a whole variety of things that you can get that one design printed on to your heart's content. And one of the things that is cool, I haven't ordered a piece of clothing for them, but I did get a pillow. I had a pillowcase, and then you can choose whether you want insert the actual pillow part of it, or if you want to just like get your own pillow and just get the case. But the thing that's cool about the clothing is you can choose like the style of shirt that you want. So they're I don't know if that would be something that you would be interested in. I can't speak to the quality of the shirts again, but the acrylic block that I got and the pillow that I got, which actually sits in my office, were both very high quality, and I liked them both a lot. So could be an option. And it doesn't even have to be book related. They have like a ton of designs for any fandom or interest. And Jamie said, I used to buy shot glasses as souvenirs when I traveled. Small, inexpensive, easy to pack, and they look nice in the display racks my dad bought for me. I think that's nice. I never bought shot glasses for myself. However, my mom started a tradition whenever she would travel somewhere new that she would buy me shot glasses. So I have an entire collection of shot glasses that are all from my mom. So they're very sentimental in that way. And right now they still fit nicely in a cabinet that we have, but I told Keaton that eventually we're gonna have to get like a display case for them that like goes up on the wall, because I think that they would just look nice to be out. And some of them are really unique and cool. Some of them are like they're definitely kind of souvenir shop things, but I have some that are like blown glass. She got me one that was made out of some type of quartz, which is like really nice. Like they can be really unique. And Telkana says, and I almost exclusively read ebooks because I find physical books too difficult to manage well, and I listen to audio. And Stina says, I finished Arson Plus. It was just a 32-page story. Oh, nice. Good job. Telkana says, Heidi out of print makes cute stuff. And JB said, now I buy postcards or bookmarks. And Anne says, I haven't given into reading only on Kindle because it bothers my eyes. That's also fair. Jamie says, yes, the unabridged version of The Stand is definitely worth the time. Yes. Swank says, I read the long version of The Stand during lockdown, thought it was appropriate. Yeah, I also read it during lockdown, funny enough. Kat says, hey, Jamie, postcards for bookmarks is a cool idea. Yes. Absolutely agree. Cena says, "Ooh, a bookworm shirt." Yeah, I thought that would be fun to have like our bookworm logo, or something like that. It might be neat to do that in the future. Jamie says, "Nope, no work for me today." Boop, boop. And Heidi says, "Yeah, make a bookworm tea." We might have to look at that, Cat. And Anne says, "Greg at Supposedly Fun has t-shirts." Nice. And Robert says, Swank, I had this edition for 2 years and just found out there is Bernie Wrightson art in it. Cool. I don't know who that is, though. Kat says, yes, I would totally be down for us to have a Bookworm Book Club t-shirt. Yeah, I definitely could offer I think a sweatshirt option too. A lot of companies will like let you pick a couple different things. Might have to look at a couple different ones, Kat, in terms of like where people usually get stuff printed. Because one thing I will say is I don't like merch, and I'm sure Kat's probably the same way. I don't like merch that's basic, where you can tell that they just like got some words and they just slapped it on a t-shirt. And now they're asking you for like 20 or 30 bucks. I believe that if you're going to buy an article of clothing as a piece of merch, it should be quality and it should be fun and it should be interesting to wear, like above all else. And Jamie says, I thought about doing merch for Dewey's readathon, but right now no money is involved, which makes the readathon much easier and more sustainable. Selling stuff can get too complicated. Yeah, absolutely can. 100%. As Dana says, possession of fireworks, including sparklers and snakes, is illegal here. I wish it was here too. And now that they have upped the fines and everyone has a video doorbell, it's been pretty quiet. Yeah, you got to watch it. Somebody will set your yard on fire, your house on fire. Scary. Hurt your car. I had an incident years ago at this point, but it's one of the reasons why we do not do family fireworks anymore. Two of my uncles got super drunk and they had Roman candles. You can probably guess where this was going. They lit them and the Roman candles fell over, and they didn't notice until after they were already shooting into the crowd, aka where I was. And one of them, I'm not kidding you, went right here, right past my ear. Another one landed on a family member's blanket that caught on fire. Another one launched into the back of a hatchback. Like the hatchback was open and like flew into the car. It was terrifying. Like absolutely horrible. And they did not do that ever again because I would not have been there. I would have been like, cool, have fun. See you later. Peace. Not me. And Zach says, it's my least favorite day of the year because my dog is scared of fireworks. Handsome jerk has been setting them off since 8:30 this morning. No, I'm sorry. My dog also hates them, Zach. I know you came in a little bit later. I was talking about that with Barker earlier, which is why my sprints are going to be shortened tonight, is because I got to be with him because people are already setting them off here, and it sucks. 8:30 in the morning, though. That's ridiculous. And Telcana says, I haven't done the sticker with the Kindle because I like it having a front cover, but I've done that with my phone, clear phone cases, and stickers. Cool. And Heidi says, Kat and Alex, 60/40 cotton is the best, very soft. The Heather blend colors. The back can have your channel names. Oh, that's a good idea. Repping, repping the channels too. As Tina says, Hedwig was really hard to clean. Some of them are. Some of them are like the worst kind of like shapes, and they get like corners and stuff. And it's like, how do you drink out of this? And Kat says, someone in our neighborhood is popping a firework that sounds more like a bomb. Ew, this person has been shooting this firework periodically for the last 3 hours. It makes us all jump. I don't like that at all. Means it's too big. Faye says, I guess the thing with people questioning me asking for bookmarks is that they think I think they're cheap or something. Oh, I never would have thought of that if somebody said that to me, that that's what they wanted, but I guess I could see it. Takana says, LOL, we used to put CDs on microwaves. And Stina says, my husband hates t-shirts that don't have raglan sleeves. I'm realizing now that I don't know what that is. Stina, if you want to tell me. Kat says, Zach, are you attending the FOMO meeting on Sunday? And Jamie says, if I ever did merch, it would be looking at companies like that where you design can be printed on different things. Yep. And Zach says, Stephen King says every time there's a public health issue, sales of the stand go up. Yeah, he had to make specific public statements to people about the fact that like the stand and like the illness that happened in the stand and COVID were nowhere near the same. Because people were making way too many comparisons between the two, and people were getting really freaked out thinking it was the end of the world. And it's like, no, 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 no. In the stand, 99% of the world's population gets wiped out. And that's not a spoiler, that's the premise of the book. But the people that are left, they have to figure out what they're going to do because everybody else is gone, right? It's like, that's not what happened during COVID, though lockdown was very traumatizing. And Anne says, I cut off the front of greeting cards that people send and use them for bookmarks. I did it with cards from our wedding. That is really cute. I have never heard of anybody doing that, but so sweet. And Stina says, Gabby's Summerween and the Sleep When I'm Dead book club have really cute merch. I'll have to check those out because that might help with some ideas. Jamie says, that sounds like a really cool collection of shot glasses. It is. My mom's done pretty good with some of them. And JB says, oh, Kat, that sounds terrible. I'm sure your poor dogs are not happy. No. Oh, good. They got the whistling ones going now. Fantastic. Stina says, I think everybody in Colorado knows somebody who has lost their house to fire. That is terrifying. Kat says, and my mom did that too. I found quite a few in the books I've brought home. That is adorable. I love that so much. And Stina says, Raglan sleeves are what baseball shirts have. Oh, okay. Got you. Robert says, Captain Trips. Yes, that Captain Trips. Oh, man. Sorry, my hip just, oh, man. My hip is locked. I will. I will fix that when we go to sprint so that nobody has to hear me grumble about my sad little hip. Both of my hips do that, by the way. They have since I was a kid. I don't know why. They lock and it's very painful to get them mobile again. It's okay. I'll fix it. All right. So we're at our 40 mark because we've been having really nice discussions. I'm going to do another one. I'm just trying to think if I could. I don't know if I will be able to do another one after that because people are starting to ramp up. So we'll put it this way. Everybody anticipate that this could be the last one, and I'll let you know if I can do another one on top of that. Deal? I appreciate your flexibility. It's just an odd day. So I'm going to ask you, what is something you've learned over the last week that was interesting? It could be interesting just to you. It doesn't have to be interesting to other people. Um, and I just like learning new things, regardless of whether I know anything about what you're talking about. So you should definitely let me know. Let's see. Talcana says, oh, it's raining here. No fireworks for a while, I guess. Go, rain, go. And Sita says, yep, just heard sirens go off, brush fire a few miles away. Oh, people never learn. I hope that person gets fined and that they find them. Anne says it's a form of recycling. It is. Absolutely, it is. You could even argue it's upcycling because you're turning it into something else that's useful. And Swank says, the end is nigh. And Jamie says, we used to use old greeting cards for bookmarks too. My grandma used pinking shears or fancy art scissors. Oh, yeah, absolutely. To cut strips from the card fronts and punched holes on the tops to add a ribbon. Yes. I used to have scissors like that did all sorts of different like zigzags and scallops and fun stuff like that. And Kat says, 2D can't hear them. Thank goodness. Luna barks and Bailey shakes, pants and paces and hides. That's so awful. And JB says, Alex, what is on your shirt looks interesting. Well, I can't move my hip because it hurts, but I will try to lower my screen. So it's a Skellyman holding a cup of coffee. And I've had this for years. I think this was a shirt I got on Etsy a while back. I just think it's really fun. It's not a reference to anything. I just thought it was cool art. Heidi says, Robert, have you read Under the Dome? I think it has the same feel as The Stand. Yes. And Faye says, Anne, about Kindle, have you tried the desktop version? I read Kindle books on my laptop hands-free, and I set the background to sepia and large print so it doesn't hurt my eyes. And Anne says, Faye, it's the blue light. Got you. And Robert says, Heidi, I haven't read that one. I want to read Swan Song by Robert McCammon. And Faye says, Anne, you can get a filter for that. That's true. You can put like a manual filter over your screen. Sia says, awesome shirt. Awesome shirt. Thank you. Sorry, your hip hurts. No, it's totally okay. Like, I mean it when I say that this is something that's been happening to me since I was a child, and it happens all the time. I like to sit in really weird positions because it takes pressure off of my hips. And for whatever reason, after I sit a certain way for a length of time, my hip will actually lock into place. And the way for me to get it mobile again is I basically have to pop it. And I've figured out a way over time that like there's a way I can kind of move through it to where it's not excruciating, because if I just outright try to pop it, it is like some of the worst pain I can experience. So that's why I'm not doing that on cameras, because I'm gonna have to like I'm gonna have to focus on like how I'm moving, and it doesn't take very long. It's just I have to think about it. And Heidi says, Robert, I loved the first half of Swan Song, then it did a swan dive for me, but I am an outlier. Everyone loves it. That's fun. That was a good joke, Heidi. Kat says, cute shirt, perfect for summer ween. Absolutely. And Jamie says, "Oh, those poor babies." Yeah, talking about cats, dogs. And Jamie says, "I love that. Skulls and skeletons are my vibe." Yeah, it's a very fun shirt. I love it. I think this might have been one where I was able to pick the shirt color. I am pretty sure I got it off of Etsy. Etsy's got great stuff. I've ordered so many things from them over the years. And Kat says, Barry says it looks like rain is heading our way, so hoping that stops the booms. I hope so for you too. Good luck. I know it makes me sound like such a party pooper to be like, I don't like fireworks, but here's the thing. If if it didn't bother the animals and it wasn't a fire risk and people didn't do it while they were drunk, I would not have a problem with it. You know, like professional fireworks. I've seen many professional firework displays. Those are fun, and they're usually far away from my house, so I don't have to worry about it. But when they're in my neighborhood and the debris from the fireworks gets in my yard, last year Barker ate some of a firework. Like he ate a piece of like some of the combustive material. Now, thankfully, I believe it was material that had already burned out because it was not toxic to him. But it scared me so bad that that got in my yard, and that was from an entire street away that came, it just people don't think about stuff like that, and they definitely don't clean up, because you can go through the neighborhood and just see all the paper and the, metal fragments and everything everywhere, and that's what freaks me out the most. Anne says, "I have 2 fingers that lock periodically." That is so interesting. I don't know why it happens. I've never looked it up. Genuinely, I know that sounds weird because we're in the age of the internet, and if you ever have a question, you can just look it up. I don't know why my hips do what they do. I've just gotten so used to it. I don't know. I wonder what happens with your fingers to make them do that. Swank says, on my Kindle, I use black background with white words and bigger letters. It's getting to be the main way I read. Jamie says, "Yay for rain." Talcana says, "Me too, Swank." And Faye says, "Imagine all the wildlife that pick up bits of fireworks." I know! It's awful. Stina says, "I got spoiled by Firefall. The symphony performed and they sync the fireworks to the music." That's cool. That's really cool. And Jamie says it's also an issue for a lot of veterans. That is true with PTSD and stuff because it sounds like guns and bombs going off. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that, but you're absolutely right. And Anne says it's called trigger finger. I don't mean to laugh, but that's such a good name to describe that. Just bang bang. So interesting. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you. That conversation was very fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started on our 45-minute sprint, and then I am going to call it after this one. So this will be our last one. I apologize because I swear to you I intended to do more, but I also really enjoy having conversations, and I just knew that tonight was probably going to be like a 3-hour night, and ended up being what it is. So again, I appreciate your flexibility. I know it's a bummer, um, but sometimes we got to do what we got to do. So I will get us started here, and I will see you all in a little bit. Happy reading. Bye. All right, everybody, come on back. Let me know how you did. I made it to page 199 in Moving Pictures. There are 400 and I think it's 408 pages. Yeah, 408 pages. So I'm just this close to being at the halfway point. So I would say I did pretty good for my goal in just 2 sprints, especially with continuously having to get up and stuff. It ended up honestly, like, when we break tonight, that's going to have been the right amount of time because they've already started setting off some pretty big fireworks that were loud and sounded close, and Barker is now refusing to go outside to potty and, was hiding under the coffee table. So, I gotta get back to my living room and, be able to hang out with him so I can wrap him up and keep him with me because that's the only way that he's going to feel safe. So, before we left, I asked you all the question, what is something you learned over the last week that was interesting? And I will start. It's a recommendation. So, if you're a fan of Carl Sagan, he years ago did a really interesting video about hieroglyphics and the Rosetta Stone. And he talked about the way that they ended up figuring out the translation of the hieroglyphics to Greek. So, definitely, if you're interested in that, go and check it out. And then the other thing I learned was actually about the movie Interstellar, which is that while they're on the water planet in Interstellar, there's these ticking noises, which I had picked up before, but I didn't think anything of it. And it turns out that the ticks are they have meaning, and each click occurs roughly every 1.25 seconds. And every time that happens, it is another day passing on Earth, which I thought was really interesting for that film. So super cool. And Jamie said, I've heard some communities are switching to drone shows in place of fireworks. I think that's a great option. I did hear about that. I don't know if it was last year or the year prior that there were places that were doing that, but I think that's super cool and much quieter too. And Kat says, I suffer with trigger finger too. And says, maybe you have trigger hip. Just like, watch out. Yeah, I don't know what causes it. It's weird. I fortunately did end up, I was able to unlock it this time and I wasn't in any great amount of pain. So that is always nice. Nan said the mayor here decided not to have a public fireworks display. So people are doing it to protest, go over his house and do it. That's, that's such a wild use of like personal resources to go after a politician for something as simple as a fireworks show. That's wild. Stina says, it sounds kind of like my hip problems. The angle of my femoral heads is off just enough that the balls don't fit into the hip socket quite right. Doc assumes it was due to my spinal issues. So they didn't check my hips until a couple of years ago. That's really interesting. So I told my mom about like my hip thing only, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. It hasn't been very long at all that I told her. Like I said, I've been dealing with it my whole life. I was so used to it and I thought it was normal for people. That was the thing, is like I thought everybody else dealt with it. So you don't really think to bring it up if you're like, ah, it's just like a normal problem. And I told her about it and she was like, "Wait, what? How long have you been dealing with that?" And I told her and she said, when you were born and we took you to the pediatrician, your pediatrician said that there was something off about your hips, but you never complained about them. So we never did anything." And I was like, "Huh, the more you know." And she doesn't know exactly what it was about my hips. He just said that he noticed something about them was a little different, whatever that meant. It obviously isn't having a great impact on my life. Like I don't suffer because of whatever it is. It has caused some amount of pain, and I am hoping later on in my life I don't get arthritis because of it. Because if I get arthritis in my hips, that's going to really suck. But I don't know. And Stina says, I learned that I can bake cinnamon rolls in my toaster oven. I suppose I already knew that, but today was the first time I thought to actually try it. Very nice. You can also bake cinnamon rolls in a waffle iron. And I will tell you that that is fun. Kat says, I learned the word ephemera is a fancy word for collectible memorabilia. Example, ticket stubs, playing cards, postcards, sheet music, etc. I had no idea I was using ephemera in my scrapbooks. That's cool. I didn't realize that either. Because I tend to use the word memorabilia more. So it's interesting. And Faye says, I learned that ancient Egyptian writers didn't sign their works because they seemed to believe part of them was infused into the writing itself, so they'd live on even if their name was forgotten. I like that. That's great. I think to a certain degree, we have that feeling about photography and photographs as well. Like, you don't even have to know who the person is in a photo to have seen that they lived a life. Like, if you ever gone to an antique store of some kind and people will actually like leave boxes of old photos just because they're interesting, and you can go through and you see all these people that you've never met and they're unlabeled, and you're just like, who was this person's life? And in that way they've kind of, carried on. And I do think it's the same with writing and with film and other mediums. It's cool. Jamie said, I'm learning a lot from the book I'm reading about the progression and history of DNA forensics in Southern California and how it was used to go back and solve cold cases. Very cool. And Tessa says, I learned that you can get hospice benefits without being weeks from dying, which is interesting because I didn't know that either, Tessa. That will make my life in this hellhole more acceptable. I am sorry to hear that you feel that the place that you're at is a hellhole, because nobody should ever have to feel that way about where they're living. And I have never heard you talk about anybody coming to visit you, Tessa. So I don't know if you have like family nearby that can help make your stay there more bearable, or if you have like any nurses that you like, or, any good people around you. And Kat says, Jamie, is this the one you were reading on Wednesday? And Jamie says, yes, I'm buddy reading it with Lori. Faye says, I read 18 pages of Flashlight. Very nice. And Swank says, the kiwi lays the largest egg in relation to their body size of any bird in the world. I gotta look up how big a kiwi egg is, because I would have figured that it's an ostrich, but ostriches are also freaking huge. So that's cool. Or like a hummingbird. I don't know. Jamie says, finish my buddy read pages in I'll Be Gone in the Dark and switch to Dry by Neal Shusterman for another buddy read. I've never read Neal Shusterman. Tokana says, no reading the sprint. Kiddo woke up, so we're playing games. That's sweet. Oh yeah, I had a crisis because I finished my most recent video game that I was playing. I was playing the new Dragon Age Veilguard game, and it ended, and I got the best ending possible, which made me really proud because I did like everything in the game. I played that game over 60 hours, and then when I was done with it, I felt lost. So I've been throwing myself back into my reading more now because I'm like, well, I don't have that distraction anymore, and I'm sad. And Anne says, some people will use any excuse to make a nuisance of themselves. That is also incredibly true. I don't think that's the case for most people, but some people, absolutely. And Faye says, I so relate. So many weird things about my body that I thought were normal turned out not so much. Yeah, that's the thing, is until you go and you talk to people about things, you don't really know what's normal and what isn't. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I wouldn't want to ask. I would just hope that something is normal because I don't want to find out that I have a problem. And Ian says, you can bake cinnamon rolls in an air fryer. Yes, my memo does that. Stina says, our toaster oven also has an air fryer setting. So does ours. For the cinnamon rolls, I use the convection bake setting. Nice. I have a convection oven and I like it a lot. I use the convection setting exclusively. I don't even use like the regular bake option. And Elena says, made it to 85 pages and read 10 chapters. That's awesome. Great job. And Tessa says, my family comes very rarely. One lives many states away, and the other two are close by, but simply too busy to visit their mother. I have a couple of nurses and aides here I like, but not too many. Well, I'm really sorry, Tessa. And I'm glad that you take the time to come on to things like this so that you can talk with people. Because I mean, at least I find that to be valuable because I would never want you to feel lonely. So I'm happy that you're here and I'm grateful that you come so frequently and you're welcome here always. Jamie says, this is my first Schusterman. It's a YA dystopian, about 40 pages in and enjoying it. The friend I'm buddy reading with loves his books. Very cool. And Robert says, thank you for sprints. Enjoy the weekend. Bubble Bee, hashtag capybara, hashtag chocolate swan fountain. Robert, you didn't even spam the sheet out of my out of my stream this time. Barely heard from you. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll get your crown. Well, I will say it's not technically nighttime yet, so I don't feel like it would be right for me to say good night to everybody. But I do wish everybody in the U.S. a happy Fourth, everybody else a wonderful evening or morning, depending on where you are. Hope you have a fabulous weekend. And I hope that if you are somebody with animals, that you are able to make it through tonight as smoothly as possible, because I am now going to go take care of mine. So wish me luck with that. And Kat says, big hugs to you, Tessa. Absolutely. Tessa says, thank you, Alex. You are more than welcome. And Jamie says, hugs to you, Tessa. And Kat says, thanks for sprints, Alex. Happy weekend. And happy weekend to you too, Kat. Jamie says, thanks for the sprints. Thank you for coming. Faye says, hugs all around. Absolutely. And even for our short time, because I know it was like way shorter than normal, I was really happy to see all of you. So thank you for coming. Jamie says, have a good weekend, all. You too. Stina says, thank you for hosting, Alex. Thanks for coming, Stina. Swank says, thanks for sprints. Thanks for coming. Anne says, good evening to you too, Anne, and a very happy weekend. And with that, oh, sorry, Telkana too. Thanks for stream. Thank you, Telkana.